All right. The worst crimes your country's committed. I ain't gonna lie. This shit needs to change.
China.
Update.
Imagine you're a university student in Beijing and it's the spring of 1989. For weeks now, you and thousands of other students have been gathering peacefully in a public square, demanding democratic reforms. For the past years, students struggled with inflation, housing shortages, and unfair treatment from government corruption and elite privilege. The only true beacon of hope for students at the time was Hu Yaobang, a senior party leader in China who actually supported free speech and political reform. However, unfortunately, Hu's progressiveness was seen as leniency and political weakness, which led to him getting removed by the very people he helped serve. With this deep betrayal, humiliation, and isolation, Hu would later on pass away from a heart attack while literally in the midst of a political party meeting. And so, that's why you're here. Ever since April 15th, the same day that Hu passed, you and millions of other people have been mourning his departure while demanding reform. You're not violent, you're not armed, you're just a bunch of young people who believe your country can be better. But on the night of June 3rd, everything changes. As you casually get ready for another round of peaceful protesting in the square, you see tanks rolling in. Let me repeat.
Oh, no.
After a casual...
I won't lie, bro. If I'm doing a peaceful protest and a tank pulls up, nigga, that is your cue to leave. I don't even care if it's a peaceful... Well, obviously, we were passionate about it. I'll be passionate about something. If I was passionate about it, I was to do it. But if I see a tank or military soldiers pull up with straps, that's my cue to leave. I'm going to leave that vicinity as fast as I can because these governments, they be playing too much, bro. And they will not hesitate to cook you, bro. Them niggas are like...
protest, you literally see hundreds of tanks and tens of thousands of soldiers appear out of nowhere. At first, you think that you're hallucinating. Then you think they're probably just trying to intimidate you without actually hurting anybody. But that idea quickly dissipates as you witness those same tanks rev up their engines and run over protesters.
Like, what the hell, bro? Like, what? Like, I'm telling you, these government niggas don't care about you, bro. They don't care. They would not hesitate. If you're trying to oppose what they're trying to do, they will just off you like, just like that, man.
Armored vehicles begin crushing people while soldiers unleash on the crowd.
You see?
This atrocity is known as the Tiananmen Square Massacre. You try to run,
That's
but there's
crazy.
chaos everywhere. Bodies drop on the ground left and right. Students struggle to free their friends, crushed underneath tank tracks. And, what's that? None of this ever happened? I'm just a crazy person. Everybody survived and lived happily ever after.
What?
United States, everybody survived and lived happily ever after.
What am I doing? All discussion on the internet heavily censored in China. You see? It's crazy. They always censor stuff like this, man.
United
crazy.
States.
And I'd never even heard of that.
2003,
Oh,
and you were
crap.
detained in Iraq during the US occupation. Honestly, you don't really even know what you've been accused of. Maybe you were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Maybe someone gave the Americans your name. Or maybe you're a straight-up war criminal. Nonetheless, it doesn't matter now. The American soldiers strip you upon arrival and throw you into a freezing cell. Sounds comfy, right? Well, that's just the beginning, because the humiliation starts immediately. The soldiers force you and other prisoners to do things that I can't mention on YouTube tweet. Immediately. The soldiers force you and other prisoners to do things that I can't mention on YouTube to each other, while they watch, laugh, and take pictures. If you refuse, then they'll do even worse things to you. For example, some nights they'll tie a rope around your, area and drag you across the concrete floor.
Oh,
The
hell
pain is
no.
excruciating, but your screams only encourage them. Other nights, they bring dogs into your cell and lock you there inside with them, while they tear you to shreds. As for sleep, well, it becomes impossible, because every time you start to drift off, soldiers bang on your cell door, or blast music at deafening volumes, blurring your days together in exhausted delirium. Then they'll force you into stress positions for hours, making you extend your arms, balance on one leg, or just hold a generally uncomfortable pose until your muscles eventually give out. And as you could probably guess, when you collapse, they punish you and make you start again. Some individuals were forced to wear hoods and stand on boxes with wires attached to their fingers. Soldiers told them, if you step off the box, you'll be electrocuted.
Oh, hell
The
no.
wires actually weren't capable of doing that, but the prisoners had no idea of knowing that. and they'd be forced to stay on the box for nearly an entire night. This atrocity is the Abu Ghraib. It was disguised as intelligence gathering, and in 2004, photographs of the cruelty leaked to the public and shocked the world, leading several soldiers to being court-martialed. Nonetheless, many victims never received justice for what was done to them.
That's
Belgium.
actually crazy.
You and your
Do you know
partner,
what
what was done
that
to them.
sounded like? It sounded like something that happened back in the 1940s, bro. I'm just saying. It's similar to that. And this shit happens everywhere, so it's low-key cooked.
Belgium. You and your
Nightmare
partner
fuel.
run from the horde of cannibalistic soldiers chasing you. You're fortunate enough to find a building to lock yourselves into, so you quickly slam the door shut and board it up with your partner to temporarily fend off a violent militia of heavily armed youths as they bang on it to try to break it down. For some context on the situation, you two are both United Nations employees who were placed on patrol in the Ituri region of the Democratic Republic of Congo. You're unarmed, isolated, and surrounded by a cannibalistic militia. Your only chance of survival is your radio, which you desperately scream into. You and your partners tell the United Nations that they need to come quickly to pick you up because you're both in grave danger. Lucky enough for you, the base is only a couple of miles away. It's so close by that you could probably just drive to it, but driving your car through an armed militia is just way too dangerous. So you need a helicopter to pick you up, but once again, it's close by, so at least they'll be swift with the pickup, right?
Nope.
You wait 6 whole days.
Bro, I won't lie. Nah, that's actually crazy, bro.
Despite the
That's a
base just
setup,
being
bro.
a 30-minute drive away, when the helicopter finally arrives, it's way too late. Your bodies are found in a bush, both missing their brains, hearts, livers, and even... They were
Bro, I'm telling you, that's a setup, bro. That is a setup, bro. If it took 35 minutes to get there and it took them 6 days, it's a setup, bro. That's crazy.
all carved out of your bodies and eaten. And this is just one horror story from the Ituri conflict. Militias engaged in ritualistic cannibalism. Villages were massacred, children were kidnapped, and forced to end their neighbors' lives and become soldiers.
What?
Now, you're probably wondering why this is listed under Belgium instead of the Congo. The reason's brief. Although devastating, the Ituri conflict was just one small war within a much larger catastrophe. It was part of the Second Congo War, which I don't know if you know this, but yeah. Africa had its own world war. It lasted 5 years and an estimated 5.4 million people passed away from it, making it the most horrible conflict since World War II. And Belgium created the conditions for this bloodbath. When King Leopold II colonized the Congo in the 1880s, he turned the entire country into his personal rubber farm. Congolese people were forced to harvest rubber under threat of harm. If they didn't meet quotas, soldiers would cut off their hands, feet, or end their families. From King Leopold's atrocities alone, between 8 and 10 million lives in the Congo were robbed.
What the fuck? This is the shit they low-key need to be like teaching, well, not kids, but like should be in the history books. Because I'm learning all this shit that there was even an African war specifically. And this guy murked over 15 people, 15 million. It's just crazy to me.
After the country finally achieved independence, Belgium still went out of its way to sabotage the Congo by assassinating its leader and melting his body in a vat of acid, because he spoke against Belgium's corruption. A Belgian officer even took the Prime Minister's tooth as a trophy for the successful sabotage. Years of this non-stop disruption created the unstable Congo that we all know today. Japan. You're a Chinese civilian occupied in Manchuria, enjoying a late-night breeze beside your home. And then randomly, Japanese soldiers arrive at your village without warning, accuse you of theft, and then throw you into a truck with dozens of others, Chinese civilians. You're confused about your crime. You've been at your house for the entire day. You're sure it's just a minor mix-up that'll be cleared once you get to the police station. But you don't ever arrive to the police station. Instead, you're transported to a remote facility hours away. When you arrive at the compound, you're no longer given a name. You're rather assigned a number, and the soldiers begin calling you a log, as if you're not human at all. You're stripped, examined, and locked in a small cell. The building is cold, sterile, and clinical. You see doctors in white coats walk past your cell, discussing something. You can't understand what they're saying because it's in Japanese, but you can't help to feel uneasy as it's obvious that they're talking about you. They bring you out of your cell and into a different room. One of the doctors sits you onto a chair and caresses your face while saying something in Japanese. Then, out of nowhere, he begins injecting something into your body while prison guards hold you tight. You feel violated at first, but when you see what's happening to the other prisoners, you quickly realize that you got it easy. Through the windows of other rooms, you see prisoners scream as they're open and harvested for their without anesthesia. More prisoners on the other side are frozen to the point of frostbite. Then doctors and guards smash their limbs to pieces with...
Like, what? Did they not nah, that shit that's pissing me off. That's literally common sense. Like, what will happen? Like, nah, this shit is nonsense. What do you mean you're freezing someone and breaking their, like, nah, these governments are so, it's so weird, man.
Sticks and batons. You get a quick peek of the window outside, where you see a group of prisoners all tied to a pole while trying desperately to break free, as doctors and soldiers throw grenades at them. And
what the freak, bro? For what reason?
as if that's not already terrible enough, there are things that you witness that are just simply too horrible to even mention on YouTube. You finally arrive back at your cell. Doctors with clipboards watch you, and when you sit down, you start feeling sick. That's when you realize that they've just injected you with a number of diseases.
Oh my. What?
Bubonic plague, cholera, typhoid, and so on. You
That's
instantly
insane.
develop a fever, then chills, then you begin vomiting. As days pass, you become unbelievably thirsty, but you're too tired to even stand. Your body is riddled from head to toe in thick, swollen lumps, and fluids begin leaking out of your body's orifices.
Ew.
They watch you deteriorate through the cell window, taking notes on clipboards without giving you any treatment. You're just observed, recorded, and studied like a lab rat, until they bring another prisoner into your room and force them to do something horrible to your deteriorating body. At the end of it, you're no longer alive, and the new prisoner is now infected with what you had, and the cycle repeats.
Shit like this still happens. And I know for a fact it happens in every single country. Like, that shit's just sick, bro. I feel like that's how they're creating all these diseases. Or developing it, or like evolving it. Because they do experiments like these. Which is just mad to think about.
This was Unit 731, and between 1936 and 1945, an estimated thousands to hundreds of thousands of people passed away from their experiments and biological warfare.
What?
But at least the doctors that conducted these atrocities were arrested and sent to jail, right? Yeah, no. After the war, many of the doctors who conducted these experiments
The US cover up. They always, oh my god.
were granted immunity by the US in exchange for their research data, and none
You see what I mean? This US is so fucked up, bro. I mean, for their data, bro. It's just crazy. Because they're doing this too. Oh my god, this US is such a bad country, bro.
were ever prosecuted for their crimes. At the very least, these doctors must have found some very valuable information if the US allowed them all to walk free in exchange for it, right? Yeah. No again. It turns out most of the data was really basic, redundant, or just purely unusual because the experiments were poorly done. Essentially, it was just a bunch of psychopaths doing psychotic things and pretending that they were doing it in the name of research. Germany. You probably already know about this event,
Yep.
and I don't really think YouTube will let me talk about it that much. So here are some fun facts about, paparazzi Germany. During World War II, Coca-Cola couldn't get syrup into Germany because of political complications. They were only able to use whatever available ingredients they had in the country.
I don't even want it.
They tried their best to recreate Coke, but it came out orange and sweeter, and that's how Fanta was born. Also, the paparazzi...
Shit. I'm not complaining. I love Fanta, but not the whole situation. This whole thing is fucked up. But Fanta's good.
banned jazz music. They called it degenerate because of the cultures that loved and mainly consumed it. But many high-ranking German leaders secretly loved jazz and would listen to it in private as a guilty pleasure, even as they publicly condemned it. Also, apparently, Germans back then were very obsessed with finding the mythical lost city of Atlantis, They sent expeditions around the world searching for it, believing it would prove their stupid extremist theories. And lastly, the angry mustache guy was born on 420. So, yeah, pretty weird.
That's it. The Ant Walkers. And his own viewers beware. Let's see.
The day starts like any other. You're going about your day arguing with your brother about how any JoJo character absolutely wipes the floor with Gojo, when suddenly loud ear-piercing sirens blare across the city. You and your brother quickly get ready to evacuate the area, but then the sirens quickly stop. You look up and see only one American B-29 bomber in the sky. You thought it was an air raid of hundreds of planes, but nope, it's a false alarm, probably just a reconnaissance flight for a solo pilot, which honestly, it's no big deal to you. So you and your brother carry on with the argument. Just a few seconds after that, the sky explodes, and you
G fucking G's. I'm gonna say it's Oppenheimer, bro.
go blind. A light brighter than 1,000 suns erupts above the city, and in that instant, the temperature at ground zero reaches 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit. People directly beneath the blast are vaporized instantly. Their bodies turn to ash and burned into shadows on walls and sidewalks. But you're lucky. You're far enough away that you survive the initial blast, but unfortunately, at the same time, you're close enough to witness the horrors that come next. The shockwave flattens everything. Every building around you collapses. Fires ignite across the city and also its people. As your sight slowly returns to you, you see men and women on fire, so desperate to get away from the heat that they jump into rivers and lakes to seek relief. But sadly, the heat is so intense that those same bodies of water begin to boil to extreme temperatures, immediately cooking alive anybody who jumps into it. You stumble through the ruins, trying to find your brother, trying to find help, trying to find anyone. And then, that's when you see them. The Ant Walkers. These were people who were so badly burned that their skin had melted off their bodies, hanging in strips from their arms and legs.
The sea was a sea of flames. The people fleeing out of it were burned too badly to be recognized as men. Oh, dang.
They had no eyes and red skin, giving them a strikingly similar resemblance to a walking skeleton. Hordes of them walk slowly in single file lines with their arms held out in front of them to keep their raw, exposed flesh from touching anything. They try to cry and scream, but the only noise they emit is something akin to a loud, wispy locust hum.
This is
They
real?
continue following each other in a single line, moving toward nothing, going nowhere, with most of them not even knowing where they are anymore. The only thing that snaps your mind away from this horrific scene is the sound of tap dancing. You quickly look to the left, only to see a skinless man missing his feet running toward you. He's walking on his exposed tibia bone.
Queen saw that Pellegrino calls a tap dance, and Dante saw a man run past him, flapping his eyes, making no noise but clicking on the road of his tibia. Chipping and fracturing with each. Oh my goodness, what the fuck, bro?
Because all the flesh has been burned away from his feet. Each step makes a horrible tapping sound against the pavement, fracturing his bones and grinding them against the ground. He doesn't scream. He doesn't interact with you. He simply runs past you. With the amount of focus he runs past you with, you quickly realize that he's searching for someone, perhaps a loved one. And as suddenly as he appeared, he disappears into the fiery smoke. Then, you wake up. You're 86 years old now, but the tragic atrocities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that robbed you of your brother and over 200,000 civilians of their lives will never leave your mind. It can't. It may serve as an edgy internet joke for online trolls nowadays, but that was your life. It was your reality, and even decades later, it is a hell you can never escape. At the time, the nukes weren't considered a war crime. The US argued it was necessary to end the war, but by today's standards, the deliberate targeting of civilian populations with weapons of such
Yo, what's good, Mina?
indiscriminate destruction would definitely be classified as a war crime.
That
War,
was, bro.
corruption, and cruelty are all terrible things. They're committed by every country and by ordinary people who convince themselves that cruelty is justified or that the enemy deserves it, that their cause makes it acceptable. But the enemy isn't an animal, nor is the enemy an alien. The enemy is still human. A human that still feels things, thinks to themselves, and has memories. No human deserves any of this.
Facts.
Treat others how you wish to be treated, and don't just follow what others do. Be the example. Have a happy day.
You too, man. W video. W fucking video.